now we're going to talk about differentiation, how we shrink or stretch an activity for individualization. Sometimes an activity might actually be written just for one child, but it's being presented to the entire group of children. Children learn really well from their peers. They also learn really well inside of a group of children. They also learn really well when it doesn't feel like it is an actual intentional presentation. So going back to the example that I gave at the very beginning about balancing, you have one child who is struggling with balancing either on the right leg or the left leg, and inviting all the children to participate in that. And then it takes you out of it as the example. You are the expert. That can be a little intimidating to a child. They will try to do as you do. But if you're able to do something much better, it can be a little bit intimidating to the child. It would be like being in an early ballet class and only having a prima ballerina demonstrate what is happening inside the class. That can be intimidating. Maybe not for everybody. Maybe that's just me. But I do know that it is absolutely true for children. So having it also be a part of an activity that is fun and engaging and feels like play. Engaging children through play can be very helpful in practicing different skills. So going back to that balancing exercise is, you're going to have children who are in there who can balance. What are you going to do for them to keep them engaged, to keep them participating? What element can you add for that? Also, this comes down to whether or not you have somebody who might be atypical in their development, and you want to ensure that they're able to participate in this activity that is geared for the entire group. You might also have young twos and twos. These are all things that we've talked about. So that's what this individualization strategies is going to discuss a little bit further. Okay, so we have the why, which was part of the introduction. Children develop at a different pace. So you might have young twos, you might have older twos, or you could have children who are the exact same age, but they're not in the exact same place developmentally. And we want to be able to support all children in their development, under where they are in their development, meeting the children where they are and following along with their development. It's why a really good understanding of developmental milestones is necessary when you are putting together these activity plans. There can be young ones and old ones. There can be young twos and older twos, and they are going to be in a different level of development. There's so much that happens during that third year of life, which is age 2. Some children may have atypical development. So we do want to keep that in mind when we are planning activities so that we can create an inclusive environment for everyone. Let's look at some examples and see what our practitioners came up with for theirs. Okay, so when writing differentiation plans, it's a good idea to include the names of children as a reference for examples, especially helpful if you're expecting another adult to participate or even actually go through this activity. So as we saw in the infant activity, for younger butterflies like Maya or Hilla, focus on assisting this is for a different activity. They were using maracas. So putting those in the children's hands and maybe helping them shake and demonstrating a little bit more with close proximity to the other practitioner, which in this case was Victoria, for auditory stimulation. So she was going to be sitting right next to her and using the maracas. For older ones like Romy, who's 14 months, or Tom, they can explore by moving rhythmically around her independently. So they would be standing and moving and shaking the maracas, which became part of this overarching of her world beats activity. Let's see what happened with the yoga activity and the feelings one. Okay, so differentiation for the yoga activity, what the practitioner had here is freedom to do which pose that the children want. So she wasn't saying you must be a tree and your tree must look this way, allowing the children to have their tree look the way that they want their tree to look, or maybe not even to do their tree, maybe to just stand with their feet together, which would be technically mountain pose, but they're doing it during when she is calling for the tree pose. And to verbally say and show what the poses look like that she's talking about. It's not to say you must do it this way. It is an example of what a tree pose looks like, because it does have a particular way of being in the body. So then when we look at the emotions activity is talk about being tired, using the card showing a tired child. So this differentiation really doesn't speak to individual children's developmental level or vocabulary level. It is just a lot of words that even the word tired doesn't relate back to the activity. So keeping it in line within your particular activity, within your defined vocabulary that you're going to be focusing on, that's your differentiation. Again, remembering we want to be able to recreate this in the future, and we want to be able to support other people in recreating these activities. It's very helpful in that way. Okay, final thoughts. Here we are. We're done. We've gotten all the way to the end. We've talked about differentiation. There's going to be one more video after this, and that's going to be talking about the role of the teacher, which you've had in previous parts of this presentation of the role of the teacher. I'm just going to do a quick review on how that is applied to writing an activity plan. And then we're going to start talking about reflection and reflective practice and how we then look back on this activity plan that we put together, and when we carried it out, what worked, what didn't work, were we on target with our differentiation. So that is going to be coming up after we talk about the role of the teacher.